Hey guys, welcome to SD Drain Tile 2026. My name is Luke and I will be taking you through the ins and out of SD Drain Tile. So yeah, just stick around.
And I just want to let you know, Scott Horvick is with you here too. I'll be acting as customer and asking some questions during the training session.
Perfect, let's get started. The first thing that we want to talk about is our Rust Sales RTK. This is an in-house developed receiver for you guys. It's a standalone kit that mounts directly to the back of your monitor. If you have the newer tablet style SD Drain monitor, this actually mounts to the back of that. One of the nice things about this is that this is the expensive part of the receiver. It's all of the brains. And then what we do is we have just a simple GNSS antenna that mounts to the tile plow. That way that takes all the abuse of that plow shattering up and down versus the expensive electronics. So just some nice things about that. It also comes with a base station, and this ensures that you guys have the best RTK signal as you are tiling. So as you're putting all that money in the ground, we want to make sure that you guys have good quality RTK coming into your tile program. So it's a lifetime unlock. So once you buy this kit, it is unlocked for life. So as long as it works, it's going to provide you an RTK signal. So this is the Rust Sales RTK Rover and base combo. So if you're more down south, contact your dealer and they can get you pricing. You do have to send the computer to us to get it upgraded because we have to take apart a bunch of things just to get this mounted. So contact your dealer, or if you're local, for sure give us a phone call and we can get you set up. The next thing we want to talk about is our upgraded PX5R connectors. So we've had this receiver out for about 5 years now. And initially we had some smaller push to connect style connectors, and we decided to upgrade those to best get guys more robust connectors for applications out in the field. So we did change the connectors on these. So if you guys want to upgrade to these connectors, if you've got version 1, you guys can send your computer in again. You have to send it into us because we have to take everything apart. But then we will get you new enclosure, new mount bracket, stuff like that on the back of the computer. And this will just make your connectors more robust. You will get a couple cables to replace your existing, so that way you guys can operate. It's all included in the kit. So you get each of these cables, and then all this bracketing and enclosure and stuff like that. So yeah, give us a call, give your dealer a call, get your computer sent in, and get these connectors upgraded. DAC 8000, this is the controller that you guys use. So everybody needs this controller. So when you guys are setting up for the year and you're wondering what equipment you need, likely it's still attached to your harnessing in the cab. But if you are looking for stuff, just know that you need to find this orange controller. It's what talks wirelessly from the monitor, I'm sorry, it talks wirelessly from the monitor to the controller, minimizing the cables running up to your SD drain tablet. So just know you need to find this. There's two connections on it. One of them is what we call the valve interface cable. It is the gray connector, as you see in the picture on the left side. And on the right side, you have the black 12-pin, which is going to be your communications cable. This is for guys who are running a dual control plow, wherever you need a slope sensor. This is where that plugs in. Some other things would be like a joystick. We've got a CAN joystick that we've sold in the past. And then also your GPS comes in on this side. So gray side is going to be your power and valve interface. The black side is going to be your communications for slope sensor or a joystick and some other components. But just check that out. Make sure you guys have this in your cab. Rust sales support, we have a couple of pages that you guys can go to. We have manuals.rustsales.com and also sddrain.com. Manuals.rustsales.com is going to be more of our downloadable manuals, the PDF versions that you guys can click through. We also had the website gone through, and we'll maybe go through this at the end, but to show you what it looks like. But it's very user friendly. You guys can click on different sections that you guys want to view if you're looking for specifics throughout the manual. SDdrain.com is going to be more for troubleshooting. There's an FAQ section that we have in there, and it's probably the most the top, I don't know, 7 to 10 questions that we get as we get tech support calls. Everything is on there to help you guys get going. It's the same thing that we would usually tell you over the phone. So if we're not available at certain times of the week, please check these 2 pages out, and they can get you content as to where or what you need to change or hook up, stuff like that. Remote support, we utilize the internet hotspots on your tablet. So if you have an iPad in the tractor with you, phone, you guys turn your hotspot on the phone or tablet or iPad, and then connect it to your SD drain monitor. Again, these connect guides are all in our manuals.rustsales.com pages, so look for that. And then once you guys get your hotspot connected to the monitor, on the desktop there is a blue icon that looks just like this one pictured. And this one is the one you'll click on. It will give you an ID and a password that you need to give to us when you call in. It's very helpful when you guys get your hotspot connected before you call in. That way you have your ID and password ready, and we don't have to spend 15, 20 minutes just trying to get your hotspot connected to the tablet. So check out our manual. That'll direct you on how to connect your hotspot, and then double click on the SD drain support icon on your desktop. Setup, I've got a couple of pages here marked out for you guys to check out in the manual, and this is more for initial setup, or if you're going back in the following year and wondering where cables are routed, where they need to go, what components you need. These are just some key pages throughout the manuals that you might want to check out, and it's all the installation manuals plus the tile manual, just to show you guys simple setup, where to put your slope sensor, some things like machine settings, auto level, tile size, and then like an initial tile install that you guys can check out. So that is some of the setup stuff that you guys can go through. We've also got, we're going to talk about the case installation. So guys running 2010 or older quads or 4-wheel drive, it doesn't matter. This connector is outside of the cab. So the back right corner is where you'll find this 6-pin Deutsch connector. 2011 or newer is all going to be inside of the cab. And this is in the cubby. So open up that passenger door window, and you'll find this connector tucked underneath the cup holder in the back right corner. Some examples of 1-3 switches. So everything 2010 or older is going to be this middle picture, this rocker style. Everything 2011 or newer, up until the AFS Connect cabs, is going to be this keypad style. Again, there are configuration instructions on how to configure your tractor to be able to control on your control with our controller. So check out our installation manuals, and that'll help you guys program your corner post if it needs to get programmed, and that just allows the 1-3 switch to work. AFS Connect cabs, front wheel assist tractors. So if you've got a plow that you can pull with a smaller tractor, we can plug into these as well. So it's on the back of the tractor. On the right side, you do have to remove the slow moving vehicle sign. So just note that. But you will find it. Notice they removed all the electronics off the back of the cab, but they kept that connector back there. So just look for it on the rear of the cab underneath the slow moving vehicle sign. And then the new armrests, this is what they look like inside of the cab. So if you guys have this machine, likely you've got a Pro 1200 monitor. There is some programming that you have to do. You have to change some stuff, turn some things on. But we do have instructions for this as well in our manuals, so check those out. But essentially what you're doing is you're enabling your auto auxiliary control valve. And if you've got a single control plow, you'll just enable A. And if you've got a dual control plow, you'll enable both A and B. And the nice thing about these screens is that you can link them or map them to whatever SCVs you want on the back. So if for some reason one SCV doesn't work as well as another, you can just swap them by clicking the drop down here on your Pro 1200. And then on the armrest, so since there is no 1-3 switch anymore, what I have guys do is actually program that gray keypad strip that you see in the top picture. And if you click on an open button, one that has not been programmed, it'll take you to the configuration page. And then what you do is you tell the monitor, okay, I want button 1 to enable auxiliary A, and I want button 2 to enable auxiliary B. And that becomes your new 1-3 switch versus the old style who had that physical switch on the armrest. So you have to program a little bit with these cabs, but they work just as well as the others once you get them going. John Deere installation. So again, it's just making a connection with your cabling. On the back of the tractor, underneath the slow moving vehicle sign, you'll find this 10-pin MetroPack connector. You'll plug our machine control cable into that. Do it with the tractor off. So make sure there is no power. The key is in the off position. Plug our controller in and then turn the key on, and what you'll see is an auto with a line through it show up on your number 1 and 3 SCV, like what's pictured in that bottom left picture. So check that out. You have to see this. If you do not see this, it means our controller is not talking to your tractor. So you'll either have to, sometimes a power cycle helps things connect. Otherwise, you might not have the correct configuration loaded, which could be what's going on. If you're moving from, let's say, an external valve to a John Deere tractor, there's 2 different configs for each valve. So we might have to just load a different configuration for your John Deere tractor. 2023 and newer John Deere 4-wheel drives, they did move this connector. It's actually in the articulation. It's the same connector, so you can use the same cabling. And one way to find it is if you follow that main power harness or chassis harness, whatever you want to call it, down the articulation, you'll find the connector in about this location. I have seen it buried a little bit further down, so just be aware, 2023 and newer, that's where I've seen it. That's where this connector will be on these tractors. External valves. So for guys running tractors that we cannot plug into, this would be older tractors without the electronics or newer tractors that just have an interface that we can't talk to. We do have a solution for you. So for guys running some of those tractors, just know that it's a kit that's actually pretty nice once you guys get it installed. You'll do your initial tuning like you would any other tractor. But then the nice thing is that you can just, if you've got an operation where you're pulling tractors in and out all the time and needing to, put hours on different tractors, the nice thing is that once you tune these, likely they will just work right when you plug them into a different tractor. You may have to adjust your flow up and down a little bit, but for most of the time, these will just work if you want to use them on a different tractor. So we have a couple different options, a single and a dual control as well. Trimble configuration. So before we talked about how our controller is wireless from the controller up to the computer. So the thing is that we run all of your GPS signal or data through our controller, and that is wirelessly projected up to the display. To program these Trimble receivers, so a 372 as an example, you have to make a hardwired connection to our computer. There's a serial port in the top right corner. You'll plug your GPS directly into that, and then you'll go into Ag Remote. And the easiest thing to do is to follow our instruction manual. And there's a page that directly talks about the 372 receivers. And it's easier just to direct you guys to that than it is to try and talk about it, because it's about a 15-step process. So just make sure, again, that you're hardwired with Trimble receivers, and then just follow our instructions in our manual to program these. John Deere GPS configuration. These work for all Starfire 3000, 6000, 7000, and 7500 globes. So you guys, it's all the same configuration that you've used in the past. You'll program these through your John Deere display. Change your baud rate to 57600, hertz to 10, turn DGA, GSA, and RMC checked on, and make sure your TCM is turned off. Again, this is all done through your John Deere display. John Deere programming kit, not so relevant in tile, but what it does essentially is it allows you to change the tower that you're connected to, and we've seen as guys, as these John Deere dealers start to take down their towers, this kit becomes less relevant. But what it allows you to do is switch towers without having to get out of the cab. You plug this ISO T in the far right picture into the ISO plug, or on the back of your ISO plug on the tractor, and then run the extension up to the cab, and that will plug in to our main harness when you are ready to program. Again, not so relevant in tile because most of the time everybody has a base station in the field with you. So you just set those once, and you're done for the year. You're not switching all the time. So, but if you're going to use this, you'll plug the connector in the cab or make that connection. You'll see the globe pop up on your John Deere display. Go through, make your changes, and then disconnect that connection. That way, your steering isn't confused as to what globe it needs to use for steering.
On a quick side note, the new John Deere receivers that they have with the satellite RTK, that's not accurate enough to be used for tiling or for ditching. So it even says it on the John Deere website. So if you're running a 7000, you're still you have the option to get a radio for your base and your receiver, so you can still put your John Deere base and put it in the field. But the satellite RTK is not accurate enough to run tiling with. So you'll need a base in the field.
Right. Yep, that is correct. Ag leader receivers. So for guys who have an ag leader receiver, we can program these from our computer. And again, we have instructions in our manual. I keep going back to that, but a lot of these receivers are multi-step processes, and it's harder to explain just in words. So just follow our cheat sheets. Just an overview of this one, you have to program part of it with your phone. So there's a wireless capability with these receivers. So you program part of it with your phone, and then you move it over to the Novatel Connect tool here on our display to make the final changes. They work just fine, but it's a little more involved when you guys want to program these. DAC 8000 basic tuning. So there's a couple things that you guys can do. So for guys running Case and John Deere tractors, we send all of our controllers out by default ready for John Deere and Case tractors. They use the same signal, so we've come up with a set of defaults that generally work okay across the board. So first thing, just plug it in, go out and do a dry run, and just see how that plow controls. If it's pretty jittery, turn your flow down. If it seems too slow, turn your flow up, and just see if you can minimize and make that control work the way that you want. Otherwise, there is a DAC config utility that we use on our desktop. So what you'll do is turn your SD drain monitor on, go to this DAC config utility on the desktop. It'll open up this first big page, and then what you'll do is click on the tune button in the bottom right corner. That'll open up the smaller page, and essentially what you're doing is with the green slider, you are setting the minimal up movement. So that's called your first step is what we call it. So first step being the first movement that you see, and you're going to also do that with the red slider, which is your down movement. So the first step or the first movement of the implement. So as you move these sliders, so let's say we move the green one up, 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 and once we get to a value that just moves the implement, that's where you're going to want to tap the value button in the top middle here. So you'll see this value change as you move the slider, and once you find a value that's just moving the implement in the proper direction, go ahead, tap that value button, and do the same for the other direction, or in this case, red. So you'll do your up, green, and your down, red. Click the value, and on the right side, you'll click Set Tune, and then click Save Changes to DAC. This is likely going to get you guys going in the right direction. And if you have issues with that after that, you can adjust your steps. So you'll go back into this page, and the more steps that you add, so you physically tap into each of these boxes. Again, the plus is going to be the up direction, and the red is going to be the down direction. The more steps that you add, so physically if you type in 50 steps to the plus side, it will react slower on the up movement. And if you add 50 steps on the down side or the negative red, it will operate or react slower on the down movement. So just be aware of that. And then you still have to click Set Tune and then Save Changes as well. That's for a single control plow. You're just doing channel 1, as you can see in the top right corner. If you click the right or left, it will switch between channels. So click the right and you'll do channel 2, which will be the pitch control, for example, on a prairie plow. So just be aware of that. That's the DAC basic tuning, and off of those instructions, you guys can do a lot. But if you guys get confused, obviously we're happy to help. So just let us know if you need some help. Data management. Okay, I'm actually going to go into the program. So we'll go into tile. As of February 6th, the most current version is 2.4.5. We'll go ahead and hit agree. The first page that you guys come to is going to be all of your file maintenance. So this will be your grower, farm, and field. This will be all of your data management. So as you guys are entering new fields or as you're creating new projects, make sure that you add categories that are correct based off of what you're doing. So grower, farm usually don't change so much unless you're doing some custom stuff, but the field is going to change obviously as you guys enter in and out of different fields. So I am going to select Rust sales. We'll just do Rust sales yard. I've got some examples loaded. I'm going to delete my old project quickly. So click on this, delete, yes. And then we'll get into, so for new operators, as you guys are starting up, you're most likely not going to have anything in here. But if guys are coming back year to year, if you're adding tile to the same project as last year, click that previous date like we just had in here, and then keep on tiling on that project. If you're just new, it's a brand new map, go ahead and click new project and then hit continue. And then on the next page is going to be all of your layers. You'll have guidance. I do have some guidance lines because I have a pre-made map. I'm going to load my 4-inch pipe. There's an elevation tab to load your LiDAR. I'm going to go ahead and load that as well. And then I also have a background. This is just more so their descriptors on what's happening, sort of. So if you get maps made or a plan created, there's going to be a background tile BMP that shows you a lot of information about what's going on with not so much each run, but with runs in your field. So it'll mark out all of your 8-inch, 12-inch, where everything goes. So this is very helpful to have loaded. Go ahead then and hit start project. Sometimes there's a benchmark that you can load. So there's a benchmark. We're going to go ahead and hit start project. And hang with me here, we might get some errors. I'm actually going to go ahead and stop my, for in-house or in-office stuff, I'm just going to stop my GPS. That way it doesn't bark at us. So we've got a plan loaded. This is our main run screen or the main interface. So for new users or even guys who are starting out for the year, I want you guys to go through a couple of pages just to be sure that settings are set up the way that you guys want. In the bottom right corner, we're going to go to settings, go to the blue button, and we're going to click on machine. This will be the first tab that I want you guys to go through. Check on these settings, make sure your plow to ground is set correctly. So if you've got your GPS configured and RTK data coming in, we can utilize your GPS data to calculate this plow to ground. Tap on the calculator and it's going to walk you through. It'll tell you to put the plow on the ground, hit OK, which level on the ground is what I mean, and then raise the plow all the way up and put it in survey position and then hit OK. And that will measure the plow to ground offset in survey position. GPS height, measure this as well. So it goes from the bottom of the shank up to the center line of the receiver. So if you're running a John Deere globe, I typically just go from where the green meets the yellow. And then even on some other globes, sometimes it's pretty obvious. I just pick a point and then go from there. And then fore aft, you can see here where that measures to, so how far your GPS globe is in front or behind the tip of the plow. And then also the left and right setting if you have an offset GPS globe. And then auto level, just leave that at 0.05 and you'll be fine. So machine settings, check those out. We'll go over to profile next. Again, these are all of your install settings. So I'm going to click on minimum grade. So this is the desired minimum slope applied across an install. So just know if it's perfectly flat, it's going to apply 0.1% slope as it's set to 0.1%. Min depth is going to be measured to top of tile. So this is the minimal coverage that you guys want on your install. So just be aware that these settings might change as you guys are installing different size tile. Make sure you go through this when tile sizes change. So min depth is to top of tile, as you can see in the picture on the right. Maximum depth is going to be to bottom of tile, as deep as the plow can go. Ideal depth is going to be an ideal depth. It's not saying that it will put it at 3.5 feet because your side profile changes a lot. So tile can be deeper in some spot and shallower in others to make the run work. But ideal depth will at least show you where your ideal is set to. It's going to try to install it at your ideal depth if it can. Max start distance. This is a setting that allows you to generate a fake side profile 50 feet beyond the end of your survey to start your install, because sometimes you can't survey all the way up to your start hole. So we just create a false profile when you guys are installing in start holes. Maximum elevation variance is set to default 1/10, and this is just basically your rock hit function. So if you guys do bump a rock and it jolts the plow up 1/10, or over 1/10 I should say, it will quickly redesign the line and let you continue on your install. If you go below 1/10, it will throw a yellow flag. So that's one thing I should talk about. There's going to be a series of flags that get dropped. You want to minimize the number of flags that you guys have throughout your runs. But what a red flag means is that it was an up violation on this maximum elevation variance, and a yellow flag is a below 1/10 violation on the maximum elevation variance. So just know red is up error, yellow is down error, and then there's going to be another color that's you'll sometimes see that's blue, and that just indicates a connection. So where you hit stop install and start install in the middle of a run. The next setting down is going to be hole distance. So this is a distance from your start hole that it will install your tile at a minimum grade. So if you guys, I've found that hole distance of 0 works really well. That way it transitions right down to your main right away. But you can see here, if I set this to say, let's say this is 20 feet here in my example, it's going to install, so my hole distance set to 20 feet, it'll install at a minimum grade for 20 feet and then start to transition up to your ideal depth. So if your start holes are really deep, just know that if this is set to 20 feet, your plow could get really deep right away and then start to transition up. So I like to set this to 0. It's a pretty good average as to what guys are happy with and how it transitions out of the start hole. Large nudge and small nudge are related to the nudge buttons, and we'll talk about those later. Tile design, we have bottom or average, and you can see here on the right how those two are different. Average is going to be installing a little bit shallower throughout the whole run, and bottom will try to maintain the lowest ideal depth possible. So it's going to try to install the tile just lower throughout the profile. So you guys make that decision. Usually bottom is what I see guys using. Hit the down arrow here. So second page, we've got simulated start depth. So what this does is actually simulates the run before you even put the plow into the ground. That way, if you're doing some spot tiling, you guys can see what the run will look like without having to dig your start hole. It kind of just speeds up the process so you don't have to go all around the field to figure out where your runs need to go. You can simply survey it, set a simulated start depth, and it will show you what the run will look like at certain depths.
Could guys use that on a four-wheeler or a UTV?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good example. Is that set it up with your UTV. If you're going out to check surveys in the spring and you got time to do that, go ahead and start it up and go out and run some surveys. So start flex distance is the next thing. When I click on this, this is a familiar picture. If you guys recognize, this was also the same picture in our hole distance. So from this, our plow indicator, that's the triangle here, out to this first line, this was our hole distance. Well, then we also have a start flex distance. That's the transition distance from the hole up to my ideal depth. So throughout, let's see, this is set to 20 feet. So 20 feet, it's going to blend the start hole up to your ideal depth and continue on your run. So that's the start flex distance. That works alongside the hole distance that we previously talked about. Next, we're going to talk about reverse survey. So what this is used for is for guys who need to actually survey in reverse. So commercial plows are harder to turn around when you want to start your install. So they usually survey in reverse, and all it does is calculate for the offset of your globe. So when you're surveying in reverse, you're going to want this checked on. No survey laser level. This is for guys who just want to drop the plow into the ground, hit start, install, and go. There's no survey that you guys need to do beforehand. You'll just drop the plow into the ground, set a percent slope that you want achieved, and then start your install. There will not be a side profile, so you can't see where the tile is in the ground. So it's kind of a special case scenario type thing where you can't do a survey. There's a surveyed laser level. This actually uses your survey and then applies a set slope to that install. So you can still do a survey like normal, but then you'll turn around, put the plow into the ground, and then set the grade applied across the whole tile run. It's not a best fit line anymore. It is a set laser grade like you would install if you were using a laser. Obviously, you can still survey in S shape if you want. You don't have to go perfectly straight like a laser would require, but so you can still, survey however you want, but it'll still install at a fixed grade. Pre-rip is going to be the next topic. So turn this on. This is a function where you guys can use it to, let's say you have rocky fields and you know you're going to be hitting rocks. Well, run a pre-rip quick just to make sure, or to try and move those rocks out of the way before you actually install your tile. Or if you're installing larger tile, this is also a nice function to just break apart that hard ground so you can pull without having to potentially get another tractor. When you're pre-ripping, I recommend doing it with your 4-inch knife face and no boot attached. All you're trying to do is break up the ground, and a lot of times you can achieve this by just ripping your 4-inch knife face through the ground and then come back later with, say, your 10-inch or 12-inch face and boot installed. So you're just trying to break up the ground quick. And the other thing that does when you use the smaller knife face is it doesn't leave quite as big of a spoil pile. That way your tractor is still going to be running on nice, flat, level ground versus bumping up and down all the time because your spoil pile is so large. So just think about that. So pre-rip is checked on, and how it works is that you'll actually select or choose the depth that you want it to pre-rip above your install depth. So on the bottom here, this is my side profile. This is where the tile will be laid. My pre-rip depth will be at this point, or whatever distance you choose in this text box right here. So that is the pre-rip depth. Again, we'll go through this with a video to show you how it actually works. Okay, so kind of a lot, but for new users and guys just checking things out for the year, again, we're going to program, and profile is the one or the category that we just went through. The next menu we're going to talk about is the tile menu. So we went through machine first, then profile. So now we're going to talk about tile. This is a page that keeps track of the different size tile as you guys are doing your install. If you guys enter in, so hit the plus button here, enter in a name for the tile. So I'm going to do, let's just do 12-inch. I'm going to type them in. I got a keyboard, 12-inch, and then I'm going to hit enter. We'll do size. Let's just do 12. Outer diameter's already calculated. Perforation, you guys select what kind of tile it is. I will just put perf slotted. And then export color, you guys can select this as well. This is what will show up on your export as an overhead picture of the whole project. So I'm going to click done, and now I've got a 12-inch tile. So my show tile button has been checked on. This is back on your main screen. That is what this button is right here. If you do not have this checked on, it will not appear. But the nice thing is that it keeps track. As you guys switch tile, like physically switch tile, and as it goes through the boot, you'll want to also switch the tile that it's recording on your install. So as you're going, you're installing, your taped junction point goes through the boot, go ahead and just switch, and it will automatically now keep track of whatever tile size you select.
Hey, quick question. If you go back to turn that one off in the, so if we turn that off and we go back to the main screen and you want to switch your tile, there's still a way to do this without that button.
Yep, you'll go into options, then you'll go to tile, and it will actually bring you to this page. and then go ahead and select the tile size that you're wanting to switch to. And this requires that you do hit stop install, because you can't access this page without stopping. So make sure you stop before you use the options way.
Okay, so if you want to be able to do it on the fly, again, the setting would be tile and then show the tile button.
Right.
So this is, you don't have to stop while you're tiling.
Correct.
You just do that one on the go.
Yep, this is your on the go tile switch, tile size switcher. Yep.
Yep, and just a matter of clicking on the finger and then moving it off to the side or wherever you want to have that.
Right. Yep. So typically that is about it. I mean, there's some other things that you might run into if you need to connect a slope sensor, stuff like that. And likely it's been set up from when we send it out. If it's been ordered with a slope sensor, we enable everything. So as you get it, you plug it in, it will all be turned on. You might have to, if you are running a slope sensor like on a dual link Prairie, if you go to DAC and then DAC Settings, you may when your controller is plugged in, these will be populated as to what's unlocked. But the thing I was going to talk about is that there's a tare pitch and a tare roll that needs to get done as you're setting up your slope sensor. So you would check this box, slope sensor will be checked, pitch roll, and pitch control. This is how it will look when your slope sensor is connected, and you'll see all of your slope data streaming in here. And then what you'll do is you'll level the plow. And then I usually, like for Prairie plows, I usually pitch them nose down just a hair. They seem to control better. Like you don't want it to be much because then your tile doesn't get laid properly. But pitch down, I usually make an inch difference from the front and the back of the plow, and then come in here and hit tare pitch. You're also going to want to do the roll. So get your cab and everything perfectly level. So whether if you have to drive up on a 2x4 to level one side, try to get it as level as you can, and then do tare roll. So that is finishing setup on like a Prairie plow. You'd go into this page, DAC settings as well. So we are all done with setup. We've got RTK GPS coming in. We've gone through and entered in our measurements and our install depths. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drive to the top end of our run and click Start Survey. So we are in survey position. Click Start Survey. You are going to drive the run exactly where you want the tile installed, and then you are going to hit Stop Survey. It'll be in the top right corner. So after your survey, you will see a side profile generate that looks something like this. So down here on the left, we've got our simulated start depth, which is simulating a start depth of, I believe, is 5.2 feet. It'll transition up to your ideal depth and then continue on your install. So if you're happy with this, go ahead, turn around, put your plow into your start hole, and then you'll hit Start Install on the right side here. And then enable the hydraulics on your tractor, so that'd be your 1-3 switch, or send flow to your external valve, and then go ahead and start moving. And you will see the plow follow this blue line as you drive.
Quick question. First run of the year, when you take it out, you should just do a dry run to make sure everything's controlling right.
Right. Like guys always say, oh, it worked great last year. Just go through and do a dry run, so no tile in the plow. Run a dry run and make sure that it follows this blue line properly. It should hug this blue line the whole time. If you see a whole bunch of flags, likely you need to tune the plow or change the hydraulic flow according to what's going on. So again, yeah, just do a dry run before you actually put pipe in the ground. So that's basically it for the startup, for setup. If you can get your plow to follow this blue line properly, you are good to go. So again, the routine is drive to the top end of your survey or where you want the plow, the tile to be installed. Click Start Survey. Go ahead and drive. Get to the end of your run. Hit Stop Survey. Turn around. Put the plow in the ground. And then start install. That is the basics of tiling. So start survey, stop survey, plow into the ground and level it out, and then start install, and you're off and running. So now we're going to go into more of the in-depth stuff and some of the options and edits that you guys can do. One of the first things that I want to talk about is going to be this grade change button. So off the bat, it is going to be set to your default of 0.1. If you guys want to actively change the minimum install grade applied to that install as you're operating, you can go ahead and up this, so increase or decrease this grade as you are installing. That is the grade change button. So this is an active button that can be changed as you guys are installing the tile. If you click the arrow, left and right arrows here, this is a pitch change button. So in rock country or some country where it's more rocky, you guys can actively adjust how the tip or how level the plow is when you guys are operating. So as your tip wears out, the control sometimes changes on the tile plow or how it controls. So you want to actually make it go more tip down or the other way, more tip up as it's laying. So you can go ahead and adjust that. I'm going to select back to grade change. If you're flat here in the valley and there's not a whole lot of rocks and you're not really worried about that, just make sure it's selected GRD for grade. That's where you want it to stay. Above that, we have the options menu. Again, we talked about earlier the tile button, how you can physically change the recording feature of what size of tile is getting recorded. We also have the edit button. So I'm going to find a tile run to use this on. Let me just see if there's one here that's a good example. Okay, so we'll just use this one as an example. So let's say in this example, I surveyed a little bit too far over the top side of this hill, and then I surveyed down towards my start hole. Well, what happens is you start to get a deep install here that when it comes over the hill. Well, let's just say I just wanted to find the peak of this hill to install my pipe. What you can do then is use this side profile as a picture, and we'll go to options and edit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that this marker here, let's say this is the peak of my hill. I want to delete everything from the peak out this way for my install. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap an X right here. So with your finger, I'll do it with my finger, you can tap about that location and then swipe the side profile over to the left and then tap out here in the white area. So tap here, it's going to grab the furthest point on the survey and then click preview and it'll show you exactly what is getting removed. So the pink lines here, that is what's getting removed from your survey. And then now when we click done editing, watch what happens. Let's say this is 250 feet, this 250 foot run, you see the foot markers along the bottom here, it is going to change to about 162 foot run. So if I hit done editing, it'll ask me, hey, you've edited points at the end of the line. Do you want to permanently remove these points instead? I'm going to click yes. And now you can see my line is a little bit shorter than it was before. And that's also reflected on your overhead map. So notice this line was the same length as these, but now I've shortened that survey because I was trying to find the peak of my hilltop. So we have deleted all of this data. And now you can just go ahead, again, drop your plow on the ground and install up to the peak of that hill. In the edit menu, there's also some other things that you guys can do. You can change the min grade, min depth, ideal depth, and max depth according to this single run. So if you've got one run that needs to be a little bit different than the others, you can go into this edit window and adjust, say your min grade, you want to increase that. It's not going to show much on the side profile when I do this, but you can change how stuff looks or how stuff is going to be installed. So just know that that is in the edit window and it only pertains to the line that you are selected on. So what's being displayed in the side profile. Done editing, and that is the options and the edit window. Also under options, you guys can hide and show things with these check boxes. Again, not a lot of guys do anything here. The one thing maybe at the end of your project is to just hide the flags when you want to print off the project. Another thing that you guys can do is there's a lock extents option where you guys can check mark this on. And what this is used for is a lot of times guys will have these super long runs. So anything over like 2,000 feet. Let's just say this run is really long. Well, what happens is you've got this profile is displaying all 2,000 feet. If you check lock extents on, as you zoom in, it is only going to let you view on your side profile what is also in view on the top map here. So from here to here is the only thing that I'm viewing. So watch as I zoom in. You can see that the foot markers down below change, and this is the lock extents function that we turned on. So if you really want to zoom in on your plow and see what that plow is doing, go ahead, turn lock extents on, and get tiling. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the window button over here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more so you guys can see what this does. If you have LiDAR loaded, so this is my LiDAR, if you've got maps that look like this, it has to be an elevation map, so a .grd. So if you tap the 3D map with your LiDAR loaded, it will give you a 3D view of your field, and you can exaggerate that 3D by moving this slider up and down. And it just really helps you see where some depressions are in the field. If you need to hit a couple spots that aren't necessarily on your tile design, if you've got a design made, if you want to run a couple extra lines, you can really use these maps to see those little depressions that you might have issues with. So just know that that's there if you've got LiDAR maps. I'm going to go back to my overhead. There's also a side profile button. If you want to use this whole area as a view, like your map view, there's two things you can do. You can either slide this up or down, so hold your finger on that, slide it up and down, and that will let you use this whole window now as to view your overhead. The next thing, or what you can do, is just click on the side profile, and that will get rid of it. Notice the buttons still stay put. So either or works just fine for larger viewing, but that is what this button does. We might as well talk about this button now too. This is the flagging button. So this is what guys will use if they want to drop flags to mark out points of interest as they're tiling. So let's say you see a chisel plow shank that fell off in the field, and now you found it. Well, you can use this, drop a flag exactly where the GPS receiver is on your tile plow. You can't drag and drop this, drop one here, drop one there, drop one there. You have to drive over the area and then click one of these flags, and it will drop at that location.
Let's go to where we would set that, just to show guys if they wanted to change a setting there quick on what that one is.
Yeah, go to settings and then go to visual and click on flagging and logging. Again, show manual flags button, you will need to check mark this on. You can rename them, so in these text box, if you tap, a keyboard will appear. You can mark out your own names and stuff like that for what you want to mark out.
Okay, let's go back to the main screen.
Bottom right, this button, one thing to note, this button will only take you to two locations, either main screen or settings. It's kind of nice to know this because as you guys, sometimes you get lost if you're not as familiar with the program yet. So if you go into some of these menus and you're like, how in the world do I get back to my, what we call main screen, just click the bottom right corner. It will bring you right back to this area. Next, we're going to talk about the bubble level. So on the left side here, we have a button. If you tap on this, I don't have a slope sensor connected right now, so it tells me that there's no slope sensor. But what it does is it will auto level your tractor or the pitch of your plow if you have the capabilities to do so. So I say that because we can only really do it with case tractors and external valves at this point. So they are the only two, because these other manufacturers have movement safeties applied to their tractors or their hydraulics. So if certain functions, certain automatic functions do not work if you're trying to just do things sitting still. So case tractors, you can do this sitting still, and external valves, you can also do this sitting still.
It's just nice when you get into the starter hole, then you'll just press and hold that button. It'll go through a sequence and it'll automatically level your plow before you start the run.
Right, that's exactly it. Yep, and I've got a video to show you guys this and a couple things on how it actually works. The next thing we'll talk about is the nudge arrows. So again, as you are actively tiling, as you're actively driving along this blue line and installing tile, you can nudge the install depth of where you want that tile to be. So as you're operating, let's say the first 400 feet, you want the tile 4 feet in the ground, and the last 200 feet, you want the tile 2.5 feet in the ground. You can go ahead and nudge your install up and down as you see fit. So do this and then just watch your install depth. Once you get to your desired feet in the ground, then you can stop nudging. But just be careful. If you do this really fast in sequence, you can cause kind of a hook in your tile, but just do it, nice and gradual over a decent span of length. So again, nudge arrows and then watch your install depth in the top left corner to see where you actually are installing the tile. One thing to note about the nudge arrows, in between them is a square. This should stay green, and what it does is it displays a value of how far off you are from your target install. So how far off of the line is your actual install. It's going to change. It should oscillate probably from like 0.05, 0.07 up and down, which is perfectly fine. If it gets over a tenth, then we could potentially have some issues with your control. And what's going to happen is then you will throw some flags, so some red flags or some yellow flags, like we talked about before. So we should try and tune your plow at this point if it's flashing yellow or red frequently. So again, this will flash red or yellow if you hit a rock and violate that max elevation variance. So you might see it, but you should also feel a rock hit your plow. But it should stay green the whole time that you are installing on a perfect run. Top middle is going to be a light bar. So what this does is it just shows how far left and right you are of your survey line. It's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. You'll see a value here, and this just shows you how many feet you are off, and you'll also see the arrows light up to show you which way you need to go.
I mean, one thing to remember about this one too is this, like for steering wise, this is taking the GPS that's off the implement. That's different from like your steering one, which is going to be usually over the front wheels of your tractor. So, but it shows you how you are keeping on the line that you're driving. But just remember that this is the globe that's on the implement.
Right, correct, yep. And a lot of guys, I mean, steering is so common now that I would say 95% of guys tiling are going to be using your steering. So this is really for guys who don't have steering on that tractor and you're trying to do some tiling. But again, yeah, guys set up their steering to keep track of where all their tile gets placed. In the top right here where it's blank, this is your live elevation reading coming out of your globe. The data that we take from your globe is all raw. There's no manipulation to it. So whatever you see in the top right corner is exactly what is coming from your globe. So just know that if you need to, let's say, compare elevations of certain points in the field to see if a run will work, you can use this live elevation reading to do so.
While we're there, let's just take a quick look at there's a couple of settings that are between your survey, zoom in, zoom out, start, install buttons that you can go ahead and change what those values are that will be showing. So the one that Luke's looking at right now, the install depth, if you just long press on that, you would be able to change that to a different value than what the defaults are. So there are 4 different areas where you can do that. There's the between survey, start survey, and zoom in, zoom out. And then underneath the zoom out, there's another value that you could long press. And then underneath the start install, stop install is another value. So those are 3 buttons where you can have a value that's coming in on the screen right away that you can just quickly see. And when Luke opens up and long presses on it, you can see if there's a different value that you want to have there, you just long press on there and put in the particular value that you want to see. Most guys, I think, keep it at what the defaults are, but there's an option for you to see a different value in those 3 spots just quickly while you're installing your tile.
Right, yep, that is exactly it. The next thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the support tab. There's a couple buttons in here. Online help. This is the first one. This will actually get you that the same team viewer window that we talked about before. This button will also get you that. It'll pop up. It'll give you an ID and a password as long as you're connected to a hotspot. If you guys have questions on how to connect to a hotspot, take your phone and scan this QR code. It brings you to the sddrain.com support FAQ, and then there's a hotspot, how to connect tab that you guys can click on for instructions on that. And then get your hotspot connected, click on the online help button, and it will pop up that window. The next button over is check for updates. Once a year, I recommend you guys going in here, clicking check for updates, and just making sure that you're on the most recent versions. So 2.4.5 as of February, what is it, 6th today? So check that out at least, before you guys start tiling. License agreement manual. So if you just need to check something or you have questions on how to do something, the most recent tile manual will be in the program at all times. This just pops up a PDF version that you guys can view. Next one over is going to be export. There's a couple different exports in this, and we will go over these later with some slides, but we have GPS log, we have report, and project. So a quick overview, GPS log is going to be a log of the GPS data that you've collected. There is a logging feature in the program if you need to, say, track a field to get a tile project made. And the reason that you would get this is because maybe there isn't any current LiDAR in your area. So you can capture and log GPS with this program. You then have to export it and have somebody else use it to create a map for you. The report is going to be a PDF version of the whole tile project that you were just working on. So whatever project you are currently in, it will export the report for that project. There is a project report. This is all of the raw data. So if you guys have a reason to need or want the data associated with this project, go ahead, export it. And again, we will show you this with some slides. The next tab we're going to talk about is going to be the visual tab. So settings, visual, and graph. So visual, think about it, it's everything that you can visually see in the program, and it's changing colors, changing the way things show up, changing your legend. So if you want to view a full-size legend, it'll just show you what different lines mean on your side profile. There's a minimal size showing you installed versus your grade, or hidden. Just gets rid of everything. I like hidden just because you can see more of a picture of what's going on in your side profile. And then line widths, if you guys want skinnier lines showing up, indicator size, a larger indicator. That's your tile plow indicator. And then if you click on these, you can just change the color. So my install line, let's say I want that pink. We can make my install line pink. Next one over, I'm going to skip the indicator bar. Actually in here, there is a colorblind friendly. If you guys need to utilize this, go ahead and check this on. And what it does, it'll turn this is your indicator bar showing you what's happening with your control. It just flashes grayscale versus orange, yellow, and red. So colorblind friendly option. The next one over is going to be map. Again, all it is changing colors and how things appear on your map. So survey color, selected color, design, things like that you guys can change. The width as well of the lines that you're surveying and installing on your overhead map. GPS symbol, so the indicator, if we make that larger, smaller, you can see this is your GPS cursor on your overhead map. The outline, you can change that as well. Another option too is you can click this show grid lines button. Let's say you don't have steering, but you still want to put things in at a pattern. If you click the show grid lines and go back to your main page, we get this indicator that shows up. And what happens is as you zoom in, it is going to start to show grid lines. And as you zoom out, it adapts to your zoom, because if you zoomed out a whole bunch, all you would see is a black map of lines. So as we zoom out so far, we actually just make it disappear. But as I zoom in, you can actually see it's more of a guidance thing than anything. But we can put in, let's say we want a 0-degree heading and we want spacing to be 25 feet. Hit enter. Now we have a grid line pattern of 25 feet at 0 degrees. I then click the lock button and it will lock it to that location. So notice as I pan around, those grid lines adjust and go back to that locked location. If I want to change where they're set up, just open it back up again by tapping on the finger, and now you can move this around and change the area or the location that your grid lines are snapped to. So that is the grid line function, and that is in map. I'm going to check it off for now. The next thing we'll talk about is flagging and logging. Again, we talked a little bit about the flagging earlier. Check your Show Manual Flags button on, name them, then you can drop flags as you drive. There's an enable visual logging feature as well, and as soon as you check this on, it is going to start recording the data based off of your GPS receiver. So a lot of guys, some guys will use this, put it on a UTV, put it on some piece of equipment that makes patterns throughout the field, like good symmetrical lines up and down the field. So perfectly parallel, not perfectly, but parallel to each other, and they're evenly spaced. That's the type of machine you want to put this on if you're going to record data. We want good, even spaced patterns recorded, and we also want you to drive the ditch bottoms in your field and also the road ditches. So think about, you need a lot of data when you're trying to create a tile plan. So make sure you get all those special features, ditch bottoms, high points, stuff like that recorded when you guys are doing the visual logging.
I think another thing that I've heard from guys is not just like the bottom of your ditches, but you'd want to do the ditch sides too. So there's more to it. If LiDAR is flown in your area, that's a really quick way to get stuff done. But you can sure use this visual logging in order to go ahead and run your fields. Quick question, Luke. Where does this data end up getting stored when you want to take it out?
Yep, so there'll be an export button. That's what the program export and GPS log does. So as soon as you click GPS log, it'll bring up a page and you hit OK. And the nice thing is that this program automatically brings up the file location where this data gets stored. So it'll be available as soon as you hit the GPS log.
Then you'd be able to go ahead and get that to your agronomist. Your agronomist can make a map that you would be able to then import into the section where we always talk about, like it's a LiDAR map that you have back there. You could also have one that's made by them as a GPS map.
Right, yep.
So it's your elevation section.
Yep, your elevation map. Yep, yeah, they could create an elevation map based off of your GPS data that you collected. The next thing we're going to talk about is DAC. So I'm not going to go through all of these just because I think it's more tech support stuff than anything. DAC control, I want you guys to go into this and just make sure that your DAC is detected. It will have to say DAC detected in this page. I do have an example in the slides that shows you what they look like when they're active and correct. The next one up is GPS control. So this page again is just like DAC control. It should say GPS detected up top. This one will give you some information about what's coming in from your GPS. There's a couple different scenarios for guys running like a smart antenna. I call, like John Deere 6000s or Trimble 372s. Those are considered smart antennas. Those are back on the tile plow. Those are usually ran wireless through our controller. So you'll need to be selected wireless. Or if you're running the PX5R, that is hardwired to the back of your monitor on COM2, baud rate 57600. So you're selected to serial. So make sure the right connection is selected and then connect with the start button.
So I just want to clarify for guys, when we're talking about wireless, that means it's not plugged into the computer. So
correct.
What we will have is we'll have the computer, usually just a power cord, and then the DAC 8000 is in the cab somewhere, usually behind the seat. There's a wireless communication between those two. There's a hardwired connection between the DAC 8000 going back to the antenna. If it's a smart antenna, like a John Deere 6000, that's on the implement, on the tile plow. When it's wired, that means somehow the
You're
GPS
direct
is
connected
directly connected to the
the
computer.
monitor. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Next one over is GPS data. This is more troubleshooting, and we'd probably be on the phone with you, but you can do some troubleshooting yourself. Some things to look for on this page. The one thing that guys start to experience is a high diff age the further you get from your base station. If you're having diff age issues and you're not even that far away from your base station, I would say check out the radio on your base. So John Deere globes, I've seen that little whip antenna on the back of your tripod or back of the base station. Sometimes those get bent over and guys will just bend them back. Well, sometimes that can break the antenna on the inside. So just be aware of that. That if things are bent and unbent all the time, it can disrupt the wavelengths and stuff coming from your base station. So first thing to look at, if your diff age starts to count up and gets really high, and SD drain will alarm you if something happens with your GPS. So in the instance that your diff age does climb above 5 seconds, it will bark at you and make that Pac-Man noise that everybody so loves. So fixed quality is the other thing to look at. Again, it has to be RTK fixed. So as you're sitting there waiting for your base station to soak, it will sit for probably about 5 minutes when it's finding its location, and then it will start transmitting a correction, and then you will see your fixed quality go to RTK fix. So there is some wait time when you plug your base station in, but after about 5 minutes, you're usually ready to roll. GPS data, we just talked about that. Satellites, we'll skip there. GPS criteria, skip that. Benchmarks, this tab, I do have some slides to show you guys how the benchmarks work, so we will actually skip that for now, but we will come back to it in a little bit. Project, so top right button, project, we have save load settings. I talk about this in the slides as well. I'm just going to talk about it real quick. If you guys have a couple different plows, so some operations might have a plow that's dedicated to mains and a plow that's dedicated to putting in laterals, you guys can save all of your settings according to whatever machine you're using in this page. So slot 1 I have saved to a pitch plow, so you might install your laterals with a pitch plow. Slot 2 could be test rig like it is here. Slot 3 you could change to prairie plow for installing some of your bigger mains. So just know you can change all of your settings, save them to the individual slots, and then load them as you require the different settings. So if I want to click slot 1 is pitch plow and then hit load, it will load the pitch plow settings. If I'm creating a new one, what you do is you select the slot, name it, and then hit save settings. So that's how this page works. It's just a quick swap between each different implement that you are pulling. Project and layers. So let me go back to the main screen here. So the instance that you might want to switch your layers is these overhead maps here. Let's say, okay, I don't need all this showing up on my page. You can go to settings, or maybe you want to switch maps, project, layers. It'll bring you back here. Let's say instead of my 4-inch pipe showing up, I want my 6-inch to show up. Now you can see here I've got 2 6-inch runs. So you can use this to separate and to organize your map as you're laying the pipe out. That's one of the nice things about getting maps done is you will get all of these. If you get it done through us, you'll get all of these laid out for you. So you can actually see exactly what needs to get installed where and divide all that up in your map. So I'm going to go back, start project. We'll just go back to here. That was the project layers button. And then the new project would be for guys if you are you get done with a field and you're going to move on to the next one. So new project, are you sure you want to start a new project? Hit yes. It saves all of your data whenever you do this, or whenever you make a change, really, it saves everything actively. Hit yes, brings you back to this page. Now you can see I've got my tile 2626 loaded, and you can continue this at this point or go to a new field, hit the plus button, add a new field, and so on. So just know that that's how you get in and out of projects. That is basically everything to do with the program, so in-program stuff. I do have some slides and videos to show you guys how stuff works when you're actively using it. So we'll go back to that page. Data management, we talked about that. You know, your grower farm field, make sure you guys are entering in new field names with the plus button on the right side down here. So field, and then select on them as you change. Starting the program, loading your topography maps. Again, this is that layers tab. You can load elevation maps, background maps, or images, benchmarks, stuff like that. Interface, we kind of walked around this right away. Start survey in the top right corner. The start install button is the green one. Settings in the bottom right corner. You can see along that far right column. And yeah, this is the main interface. You have a side profile on the bottom of the page, and the overhead map is on the top half of the page, just to show you where your vehicle is riding around. Survey buttons, we've got start survey, stop survey, pause survey, and resume survey. You guys all saw start survey. So as you're actively surveying, you'll see a stop survey button, naturally, because you need to stop at some point. And you'll also see a pause survey button. The way that this is used is guys will survey through culverts or through roads, or if you have a project that goes in between, two fields and there's a road in the way, you can survey up to the road, pause your survey, hop up and around into the other field and hit resume. That way it captures the elevation on each side of the road and includes it in that survey. It just snaps a line between the points where you hit pause survey and resume survey. And then you drive to the end of your survey and hit stop survey to complete the action. Side profile showing you again, there is a shadow pipe that appears, and actually I think that's the next slide, but this is your side profile. If you guys see a warning sign like this, likely it's referring to something that you're either violating your minimum depth at some point throughout the line, so just be aware that those are usually the reasons that warnings show up, is that you're violating a minimum or a maximum depth. Speaking of warnings, this is actually warning that, hey, you need to make an overcut, which is cutting out a part of the terrain that you're driving on, so that way you guys can install, just because your plow can't go that deep. So again, what you'll do is you can mark out this overcut. What I would do is, if you see a survey like this and you know you're gonna have to overcut some here, go out, put your plow on the ground and just scratch it. I would say, I usually try to cut a little bit more out. I would scratch it about this distance below that overcut line. That way you know for sure that your plow can install at the depth that you need to achieve. And then just go ahead, once you get that cut out with a scraper, make sure obviously you make enough room for your tractor to drive in that area. So if you have duals on, unfortunately it's a lot of dirt to remove, but if you're running a quad track, it's pretty nice and compact to fit in that trench. Again, cut the overcut out and then go back and just start your install along this run. Shadow pipe. So we talked about a little bit earlier, we have a 4-inch pipe and an 8-inch pipe. So the 4-inch shadow shows you exactly where the 4-inch would install. And then we have the 8-inch, and you can see how it changes based off of the tile size. So when you switch tile sizes, we will reflect that in the side profile.
So the shadow pipe shows up when you do the survey, but it's before you start the install.
Right, it'll show up. So as soon as you hit start install and want to install, the shadow pipe will go away. All it is an observation tool, so you can see exactly where that tile is placed into the ground. Auto level. Okay, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I've got a video to show you. Again, some of the screenshots here, you tap on the blue bubble, and then you'll get a warning that pops up, says, hey, make sure no people are around, this thing's about to move. And then you go ahead and click the hold to level button while your hydraulics are engaged on your case or your external valve. So case tractors or external valves are the only way that it works.
And this is for the auto level. John Deere guys could still manually move their plow if they don't have like a bubble level that's on the plow, and they could use this indicator to see when they're actually level.
Right, you can still use this indicator. So this indicator isn't just garbage. It still works if you have a slope sensor on your machine. It will still reflect and give you green, meaning level. And we'll see that here once I show you this video. But first we have to talk about pre-rip a little bit more. So pre-rip is checked on, and my pre-rip depth is set to 1 foot, excuse me. So this video right here, this is going to be pre-rip live. So what happened here is I surveyed my line. So I've surveyed this run in the top window. And now I'm going to drop my plow into the start hole here. There's my plow indicator, and I'm dropping my plow down. This is a typical install or something that anybody can run into. I'll drop my plow down. I'm going to tap the bubble level, hit yes, and now I'm going to hold, and you'll watch the bubble go to center, which is leveled. Then hit close. I will then hit start install, and I'm going to select pre-rip. So we're showing the pre-rip function. And as soon as I start moving, check your hydraulics that are engaged, or make sure that your hydraulics are engaged. And as soon as you start moving, it's going to lift that plow to your desired pre-rip depth. Again, that is a depth or a distance measured above your install path. So notice how my plow indicator there is just hovering above the install. It will do that throughout the whole run. So at this point, I stopped my pre-rip. I lifted the plow out of the ground, and I'm going to just quickly go spot pre-rip another location. You don't have to do the whole run if you don't have to, or if you don't want to. I'm going to drive over here to about this location, and I am going to push the plow back into the ground. Oops, I'll back that up a little bit. Push the plow into the ground, and then I'm going to hit start install again. I will continue to select pre-rip because I want to continue pre-ripping. And now I'm going to pre-rip this section as well. So you can do spot pre-rips. You don't have to do the whole run. That way you can really just cruise over to a spot, pre-rip it quick, come back and start your install. So you'll see me here. I'll be pre-ripping up to about this point. Actually a little bit further. I will hit stop pre-rip, and I'm going to lift the plow out of the ground. And then I'm going to reverse all the way back to my start hole. So lifting the plow out of the ground, and now I'm going to reverse back to my start hole. And I'll just zoom that ahead so you don't have to watch me drive. I'm going to get back to my start hole, drop the plow into the ground again. And then what you're going to see is there's a little star with an elevation reading that's going to lower with me as I operate. So there's my, I'm going to pause it here. So you see this star right here? This is going to indicate where I had placed the plow when I started my pre-rip. That way you can match up your install to your pre-rip, and your pre-rip is effective then. So I will lower the plow into the ground to 908.02 feet. Read that in the top right corner. 908.02 is what you will shoot for. So watch that as you drop down. I will get to that, and then I'm going to use the auto level again. So 908.02. Click the bubble level, hit yes, and then auto level, and it will level it to green. Again, at this point, if you're a John Deere guy, it will. You'd have to manually just use that bubble to level your plow. I then hit start install, and I'm going to install tile this time. So that is how the pre-rip function works in conjunction with the start install. So pre-rip first, come back, start your install, and now you are off and tiling. Options menu. Again, you can select your different tile size. You can select the edit button. Remember, for removing points on the line. So if you wanted to remove the back half of an install because it's going too far or something doesn't line up, you guys can do that in the edit window. Again, here it is. You're moving some points along this line. Some different examples as to how this edit window will work. You see on the right side here, we chopped off this hilltop, and really all this did was just change how that tile was laid in the run a little more smoothly. You don't have to do this every time. It's just in certain scenarios where, hey, I don't like this little quick jaunt here. I'm going to chop off the top of this hill and make it nice and smooth there. So you can see how the edit window can be utilized. Simulated start depth, we talked about this earlier, but if you check this on, all you're doing is simulating the run based off of a specific start depth. So select your start depth and then go ahead and decide if you like the way that that run looks. If you don't like it, then go ahead and resurvey to a different location and try it again. It just helps you guys get a feel for what your install is going to do without having to dig your start holes. Install button, stop install, start install, and pause control. Again, at the beginning of your run, when you guys are starting out, you'll hit start install. When you get to the end of your run, you're going to hit stop install. That will disable recording of the tile. I see some guys, what they'll forget to do is hit this button and they'll just start lifting the plow out of the ground. It's not a bad thing, but it'll just record a little bit extra footage of tile that actually wasn't installed. It just, you'll see your install just come out of the ground. It gets recorded unless you hit stop install. There's also a pause control. So what this does is it just pauses the control on our controller talking to the tractor, and there won't be any control. Guys sometimes use this for ripping tile up a hill. If you still want to record the lengths, you can just stop control. Or if you, I don't know, if there's a machine that you want to use and you're doing specific tile only, like up a steep grade, and you don't have control on that machine, you can still use this to record all of your runs, but you just won't have control as long as you hit pause control. Next, we'll talk about GPS and then that GPS control page. So I'm just showing you here what it looks like when there's actual data coming in. It just says GPS detected on top, good, good, good. And then you see on the right side, it shows wireless is selected. That is what it will look like if you're running a smart antenna. So a John Deere Globe, Trimble Globe, stuff like that. So if you're running your data through the controller and wirelessly up to the monitor, you'll have wireless selected. And versus wired, it is selected to COM1. There is a COM port on these computers. It is on the top right side. There's a little panel that opens up, and you have a COM port there. Again, if you're running hardwired stuff, you're either running through that COM port or else you are hardwired on the back of the monitor with the PX5R that we talked about. GPS data showing you guys what this page looks like when you actually have data coming in. Again, RTK fix is the most important one that you need. I guess it's all really important, but just know that this is where you can view the data coming in off of your receiver. Benchmarks. So with every project, I recommend creating a benchmark somewhere. This needs to be a repeatable point that you guys can go to year in and year out. So let's say you've got a 5-year project that you want to keep adding to each year. What you do is you'll create a benchmark somewhere in that field that you guys can drive through that doesn't change elevation. That's a nice sturdy point. Some guys I've heard use like the lift station in the corner. Just drive up to the lift station, create your benchmark at that point. That's usually a good thing to do because that's not going to change. So create a benchmark somewhere. You go into benchmarks. You'll click add new. So GPS, the first one over is benchmarks. Click add new, and it will collect points wherever you're parked, and then you will see a benchmark listed in the menu. The next time you come back, what you'll do is you'll go to the same page, you'll select the benchmark, and then you're going to click start correction. So when you start that project up again next year, you're going to have to go park on this benchmark, select it in the list, and then hit start correction, and it will correct to the benchmark that you had initially created. So pretty easy, but what it does, it'll just keep track of, it'll reorganize or replace, sync all of your GPS back to the original benchmark. That way, if you're going to look for tile to connect to, you guys can drive right up to it, mark it out in the field, and dig straight down, and it'll be right there. DAC menu. DAC control, we're going to talk about wireless here a little bit. This is what it looks like when that page is actually populated. Again, all people are going to be selected wireless under DAC control unless you've been directed to by tech support. So DAC detected, and this is guys running the new tablet style with the wireless stuff. Just make sure it's selected wireless and it says DAC detected up on top. DAC connection, what to look for. So some things on the DAC, there's some indicators that we use for troubleshooting. So we have GPS data to the DAC. Again, this is the data fed from your receiver to the DAC. You should see a green light, an LED 7. If you're running the PX5R, you will not see, or hardwired connection, you will not see the LED on LED 7. The blue light, everybody has to have. That indicates a connection from the computer to the controller. Again, no matter what, you have to have a blue light. And then depending on your setup, you might have a green light flickering as well. And then DAC data page shows you kind of the data coming in on this page. It's just pitch and roll messages, and really that's all you see there. DAC settings, again, showing you don't go and change all these check boxes. It's just all it is showing you guys an example of what this might look like when you're plugged in. Your controller will set this page as it talks to it. It'll check and see what's unlocked, and it will decide what gets checked. You don't need to change anything in here unless you're setting up something new for the year. Visual menu, again, we have to do with colors. So the graph menu, min depth, ideal depth, change all your colors how you want it to look. The map menu, we went through this. There's some things that you can turn on and off. The show grid lines was kind of the main thing here. You can place guidance lines, that's what your grid lines are, throughout your field, adjust them, set a heading, set a spacing width, and then lock them in a location. Flagging and logging. So here's just a picture of you marking out things throughout the field. This is the show manual flags button. Again, here, this is this button here on the middle of your page, and you can name them and mark out whatever you guys see fit. Flagging and logging button again, and in here is the enable visual logging. So as you check this on, it will then record what is happening or wherever you're driving. So get all set up to record that data if you're trying to collect elevation. Check this on and then just start driving and just keep driving. And then once you're done, go in here, uncheck this, and then you will you will export a GPS log. These are the bars that we talked about to give you guys different bits of data. If you want to view different things, you can either long press, or if you have a mouse, right click. I've been right clicking, I have a mouse, but long press with your finger on these locations. A menu will pop up and select the proper bit of data that you want to see. Vertical bar, we showed this, so you can see it a little bit here in action. So the top of the bar will be your plow depth. That's how deep the tile is getting installed, so to bottom of tile. Vertical distance off your design line, so it just shows the error in a sense of your tile plow. It will remain green, or should remain green, throughout your whole install. Profile settings, again, go through these to make sure that they're set up for the way that you guys want to install your tile. This has everything to do with where the tile is getting placed in the ground, so it's very important to check these even when you are switching tile sizes. So let's just say you get done with a bunch of laterals and you're going to go install another main, so like a 10-inch main. A lot of the times your ideal depth and your min depth and max depth are going to be a lot different based off of the tile sizes that you guys install. Second page, you get some other options here that you guys can turn on and off. Simulated start depth and pre-rip are kind of the ones to note here. Okay, export function. So as you guys are wanting to export your projects, you can click on Program, Export, and I'm going to show you guys a report. So the next page shows the steps that will happen. You'll get a page that pops up that says choose the location to export. Just hit OK, and then it says report saved to wherever, and then hit OK. And what will happen is it'll pop up a list, and you want to click on the PDF. This is your report. So you'll see this project will open up. And the nice thing about these reports is it keeps track of all of the installed lines throughout the project. So it'll show you total lengths of 4-inch, total lengths of 6-inch, total lengths of 8, and so on. It'll give you average grades, lengths, stuff like that of every single run that you install in the project. And it's printable. You can print this off, keep it for your records. It's just a nice map. The other version is going to be the project report. This will be exporting the raw data if you need to export this into a different program. But same type of function, hit OK, it loads it, and you'll see a screen that pops up that looks something like this. If you guys have Google Earth installed on your computers, they are not by default, so you'll have to manually install Google Earth. Go ahead and do that. And when you export this project, you get KML files. So you can open up the install tile layer KML, after you get Google Earth installed, and it will overlay it to Google Earth just like this. You can then print this off. There's a print function in the top right here. There's a printer. Click that. It lets you name the project or apply a title, and then you can print this off. And again, it's for your records. This is for guys if you don't have like nape imagery or satellite imagery. You cannot put the nape back into tile. It is only a print off version that you can hand out or keep for your records.
Let's just go to sddrain.com. So let's go to the support tab, go to training, go all the way down to the bottom. So if you're looking for details on how to like install Google Earth and more Google Earth information, there's a video for you right there. So it's on sddrain.com, go to the support tab, go to training, and then go to the bottom of the page. There's going to be a more detailed, it's about a 7 or 8 minute video that'll show you exactly what's going on. So here's sddrain.com, and if you need to troubleshoot, you can go to the support tab, go to troubleshooting, and the big one that people would look at is, why don't I have a GPS signal? So if you're having trouble with the GPS signal, you can go ahead, click on this area. It'll ask you about GPS power and DAC controller, same circuit. Does the DAC have power? Are the lights on? Right? If that's a yes, then continue to the next step. Otherwise, here's what you do to fix that. Now, what this is going to do is going to take you through a troubleshooting tree. This is the same troubleshooting tree that Luke goes through all the time if anybody's having trouble with their GPS with guys. It's an easy way for you to go ahead and follow. And if there's an issue, more than likely you're going to get solved on doing something through here. Another thing to look at too is if you're having trouble, you can go to the support, go to the manuals page. Now, what this would do is there's going to be an online user manual. So like when you're initially setting up tile, you can go to there. This is going to be pretty friendly to use on your phone, but if you were having trouble and you need to quickly go and see, wow, what settings was I supposed to use for my John Deere GPS? Click on that. This is going to show you exactly what you're going to need to do and the different settings that you're going to need to make sure that your GPS is set up properly. So there are tools on sddrain.com for troubleshooting. There's also some videos on how to set stuff up. In fact, if we go back to sddrain.com, if you go to the support tab again, go to resources. If you're looking at, there's unboxing videos showing what you should have in your kits that you get. Also, there's a couple of hardware installation videos. So if you're just looking at where am I supposed to be installing stuff for John Deere, or where am I supposed to be installing stuff for CNH, those are our two most popular. You can go ahead and take a look at those videos as a supplement to what your installation manual is, showing you where to put stuff. So these resources, just want to let you know, they're available at sddrain.com for you to take a look at. And also, they supplement calling your dealer and asking them when you need some extra help too. With that, that's going to be ending our training today for Tile 2026 training. Hope you have a great season.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it.